Hello, my frosty friends. Jerry Rosa here at the Rosa String Works Workshop. And if you were here, you would definitely be frosty. Take a look at this. 1 degree Fahrenheit, if you look there in the upper left-hand corner of that monitor there. And that's with 81% humidity. And that's cold. You know, wet is cold. Wet is much colder than dry. And when it's 1 degree Fahrenheit, which is 31 degrees below freezing, and yet it's 81% humidity, you're cold, let me tell you. Very cold. And then you look down at below there, you can't go by the time. It says 8:01. This was actually taken this morning at 6:01. You can't go by that, but you can see that our house temperature is 65 degrees Fahrenheit with only a 10% humidity. Now, that 10% is lying because just a minute or two later it said 21%. But even 21% humidity is very low. But when you just run your heat constantly, it's going to happen. Looks like we've got about 32 viewers on here already. Good morning to y'all. We've got a good program for you this morning, I think. Just a lot of hodgepodge stuff, miscellaneous things that you're going to learn about. We've got a guest here in the studio we'll introduce in just a minute. But right now, take a look at this. You've seen this before. I released the video on building this last night. It's already had quite a few views. I'm going to say in the neighborhood of 1,500. I haven't checked it lately, but it's doing pretty well so far. I thought you might be interested in seeing some pictures from up there in the snow. And here's one looking out the window that my daughter Rochelle took. It's kind of a pretty view. It looks just like a picture frame. Here's another view from looking out the window there in the snow. It's just beautiful. I might add that my daughter Rochelle took a very short video clip of the tower, just basically panning up, looking up the tower and the trees and stuff in the snow, and she put that on TikTok. And she did that just a couple of days ago, and it's already had 218,000 plus views, almost 219,000. So that's crazy. I wish I could get that kind of view count on my videos. But another thing I think you'll enjoy is hearing some of the background comments on that video. If you do watch how I built it, my grandson is in there and he's making little comments left and right, and you'll see him in just a minute too, because someone else asked about some other things that we do here on the farm, and we're going to get into that here in just a moment. My granddaughter Mary, I mentioned her last week in the article. There is still that link in the video, in the description of this video. You can still see a link of an article about her basketball team. And anyway, last night we were at their game, and they redeemed themselves. They lost Tuesday night to Crocker, but last night, a town called Lakeway, they actually won again. So their record now, I think, is 14-2. So they're still doing very, very well. Last week, someone asked about fishing here on the farm, and this is my youngest grandchild, and he's my grandson Leighton. And he has there holding in his hand the first fish he ever caught. It's a crappie, caught it in our pond right here. It's a small crappie. There are some fairly large crappie in the pond, and some 3 to 5 pound bass, and there's 5-6 pound catfish, and I don't know, there's a lot of fish in there. It's a much deeper pond than it looks. It's like almost 12 feet deep, 11.5 feet deep, I think. That little fish you see right above my head is just one that we caught out of the creek. That is called a darter, and I believe it's something red, something darter. I can't think of the exact name of it right now. I should have looked it up. But you can see it's quite colorful, and even I, being colorblind, can tell there's a lot of color in that fish. But that's just a little bitty thing that's only about so long that lives here in our creek. Just like maybe 3 inches long, 2.5 inches long, something like that. But anyway, somebody was asking about that fishing, so I thought I'd throw that in there. This is going to be a short one. We're going to get right into the questions and answers. So before very long here, we'll be into those questions and answers. And I just want to remind everybody that I want you to start your question with 2 question marks at least. You can put more if you want. But that 2 question marks helps me see it because it scrolls up the screen rather fast. And as I've already told you a million times, I read rather slowly. So that helps me find it. Our super fan Liam has sent in a video clip, and this young man has made some major accomplishments on playing his auto harp. Take a look at this.
Hi, Jerry, it's your super fan Liam. I made you a song on my auto harp.
He's going to play you The Man of Constant Sorrow.
I am a man and sorrow of secrets on my day. Farewell to old Kentucky, the place I was born and raised. 6 long years I've been in trouble, no pleasure here on earth. I found I'm bound to rise that northern railroad. I have no friends to love me now. To help him now. You can bury me in some dark valley. For many years that I may reign, and perhaps, come on, strong, and perhaps you'll love another. While I lay sleep in my grave, while he is sleeping in his grave. Tell Jerry thank you.
Bye.
You are welcome. My goodness, wasn't that awesome? Yeah, Liam, you did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you so much for sending us that video clip. And thank you to that wonderful viewer who donated that auto harp. You can see there you made a young man very happy. And we're getting some very nice comments on that, and so I'm glad we showed that. Thanks again, Liam. Moving right along here, I wanted to give you a status of Ron. For those of you who are on the fence about the vaccinations and all that different thing, and it's very political, and I'm not going to push one way or the other. I'm just going to tell you the facts, and you can make up your own mind because you don't need me pushing you one way or the other. Here's the facts. I did take both Moderna vaccines. I did not get the booster. And when I did contract COVID, I didn't know it for the first couple of days, and that's how I think Ron got it, because I was around Ron helping him cut down some trees on Tuesday. I found out I had COVID on Thursday, and of course I already had the symptoms on Tuesday when I was around Ron, so he probably got the COVID from me. Now, I've been, I'd say Ron and I are very comparable in terms of health and ability and all that. I'm on very few drugs in my life. I mean, I've got a little bit of blood pressure medicine I take and a little bit of this stuff for my arthritis. But other than that, I don't take much, and I've always been pretty healthy. Ron is even more healthy in that he's always played sports. He still was playing on softball leagues and stuff, and up until just maybe last year. I'm not sure if he played this year or not, but a year ago or so, maybe the COVID thing stopped it. I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is he's always been super healthy, not on any drugs at all, no blood pressure, no nothing. And he did not get the vaccines, and he did not take the infusion that I took. Like I took that I found out I had COVID on Thursday. I took the infusion on Friday. Well, he didn't do any of that. He was of the mindset that he wanted to, build up his immunity by not taking those things, and that would build his immunity up. Well, I don't disagree with any of that logic or thinking, and I'm not pointing any fingers at Ron. Trust me, this is not to call him out or anything, not at all. I hope you don't take it that way. I'm just telling you the facts because I think we're both very comparable, and you can see the difference in the outcome. Yeah, he just got out of the hospital. He was on oxygen. I don't think he was on a ventilator, but he was on oxygen for about 4 days. And now he's with a physical therapist, with breathing exercises and walking exercises and things like that. So I don't say that it nearly killed him, but probably wasn't too far from killing him. I've had a number of friends that have died from this. It's something to take serious. For me personally, and I'm not making light of my situation. Please don't anybody take any of this the wrong way. It wasn't much more than a really bad cold for me. I was completely down one day. The day I got my infusion, I just decided to rest the rest of that day, and I didn't do a single thing that whole day. The next day I worked. The next day after that, I think I rested a half a day. But otherwise, I worked pretty much every day during my whole COVID thing. Now, as I mentioned before, I did completely lose my sense of smell, and I lost 80% of my taste. But if you know me and you know my history with my taste, I have super, super sensitive taste. I have been confirmed and tested as a taster, which means I have a lot more taste buds. So that's why I think perhaps I didn't lose my whole taste. But anyway, it wasn't a pleasant experience, but the COVID thing for me, with having the vaccines and the infusion, it wasn't all that terrible. I mean, I've been through a lot worse with colds and flus and things. So it was, you know, so you can, there's your comparison. Ron and I are very comparable in terms of health, but yet he was in really bad shape and will be for the next several weeks, they say. It'll take him weeks and weeks to get back to normal. So, you make up your own mind, you can do the math. Let's see, I think that's, well, no, it's not everything I wanted to cover. I got 2 or 3 more things here yet on this list. I've got 2 lists. I got a list on my screen and I got a list right here in my hand. So in the list on my hand, my next thing to tell you about was Kevin Hone I think his name is Hain, Hoehn, and he pronounces it Hain, I believe. Kevin Hain was here last week from up in Wisconsin. When he left up there, he said it was 25 below. And when he got down here, it was 32. So he said it was like coming to springtime or into summer down here, you know. But anyway, he brought me 3 Martin guitars, and I just thought I'd let you know that we were able to fix all 3 Martin guitars, and he left saying that he had never had a single guitar in his life play as good as all 3 of his Martins played when he left. And he left me a really, really nice compliment out on the Google business profile. So if you're out there anywhere, and you can take a look at that. But his videos will be coming out shortly. As a matter of fact, I gave Emery instruction to work on those next. So you'll be seeing those videos coming out fairly soon. Probably within a week. Just thought I'd let you know that. Speaking of people coming here with instruments and, you know, staying at our rental retreat, here's our world record holder right here, Bill Webb. Step over here, Bill. Get on camera. Boy. Bill, how many times have you been here, Bill?
This is my 4th trip. I love this place.
This is super fan Bill Webb. He has brought me a little bit of a challenging project. I'll show you that real quick here. Well, first of all, I'll show you this part. It's never good when you pick up just a neck. It's a Framus, or Framus. You can pronounce it however you want to. It's a German-made guitar. It's got a totally laminated neck there. You can see how many laminations are in that neck, which I like because it's very stable. It's never going to change or move or anything. Here's what we were really working on. Bill said he was having trouble with the neck staying. Whenever he'd put tension on it, the neck would kind of lift up. Well, when I started looking at that, that usually indicates there's a problem. You know, that it's not, if you were talking about a solid neck guitar, it doesn't necessarily mean it needs a neck reset, but that's what everybody thinks it means. And that's kind of the same thing here, except this is one of those bolt-on necks. And I thought, well, you know, bolts typically don't fail. There's something else wrong, you know, is what I was thinking almost instantly. And sure enough, we found where the neck block had pulled away from the top and pulled away from the sides. We glued this up last evening or late yesterday afternoon, and so it's ready to come out of these clamps. I just wanted to leave it clamped up to show you here this morning that you know, that's kind of what we had to do to get it all stable again. And now if we put string tension on it, it ought to stay where it's at. Pardon me?
So don't forget about the hole.
Oh, well, yeah. The other thing we were working on is this big old hole. It almost looked like a gunshot through it, except that it was rectangular. And somebody, you said at the store, he bought it at a antique store?
Antique shop in Jefferson, Texas.
Yeah, and you could tell that something heavy and square or kind of rectangular actually, is about a 1/2 inch long and maybe almost a 1/4 inch wide, dropped right on the top here, busted it all the way through, and was really splintered on the inside. Much worse on the inside, just kind of like a gunshot. When it goes in, it leaves a small hole, but where it comes out, it leaves a big hole. That's just exactly like this. So I put all the pieces back in there and then filled it with a filler, and then we're going to clean that up this morning and try to dye it to match. But anyway.
Yeah, she said it was leaned up and somebody reached up to get something off a top shelf and dropped it. right on the top of the guitar.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. You can actually tell the exact shape of whatever they dropped. But anyway, so
But I did resist the urge to glue random pieces of wood in the guitar, like Jerry always says.
yeah,
Resist.
I thought that was pretty funny. He that's what he told me when he got here. He goes, he says, I didn't glue any random pieces of wood up inside this thing. And I thought, well, that's a good thing. Don't do that. In case you are confused on the subject, don't glue random pieces of wood.
If you do, don't bring it to Jerry.
Yeah, I wish I would have kept a list. Seriously, it would have been a fun list if I could have kept a list of all the things I have found glued up inside of guitars over the last 40 years. The most memorable things is a piece of baby bed rail and a piece of triangular wall paneling. Came right off the wall. And it was a big piece. It was like big enough to get through the sound hole. And amazing, just amazing what I found in, toothpicks, of course. And
I think one of them had a piece of a yardstick.
yeah, yardsticks, rulers. We've had everything glued up inside it. Just don't glue random pieces of wood inside your guitar. Period. Just don't do it. It's amazing. I have to tell you that.
But we are listening.
It's funny. Well, anyway, Bill's from, you said Commerce, Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
just,
so
east of Dallas.
so it's just a hop, skip, and a jump up here. What is it, 6-7 hours?
About 8 hours.
8
Time to
hours?
stop and get gas and
Yeah.
eat lunch.
Well, I'm sure glad you're here, Bill. Anything you want to tell the people about the accommodations or
Oh
anything?
man, this place is so nice. You can't beat it. You'd have to stay in a 5-star hotel, and still I don't think you could beat it.
Great.
It's such a nice place, and it's so quiet.
Yeah.
It's so dark. It's almost scary.
Yeah, it is. It really is. That's why I can't find my car when I go outside at night when it's dark. I told you I'm night blind, and at least 3 times, I'm sure, I have walked all the way across the parking lot looking for my car and end up out there in the hayfield. That's how night blind I am. I am so night blind it's not even funny. Okay, let's see. Let's move on to the next thing here. The next thing I've got is giving you another status. Because you watch the Shop Talks, you get to see this ahead of time. But it's the status of the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. At least that's my goal. Now, if you're tuning in for the very first time, this is not a conceited brag or anything. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to turn this mandolin into. And I'm building it from scratch, as you can see. So I did make a lot of progress from last week. I've got the neck pretty much shaped. It's not finished, of course, and I've got to do the peg head yet. And I am actually already working on the inlay for the peg head and all that. I did get the sides finished, and the top is glued to the sides. And this thing really does make a nice tone. I probably won't transfer here, but no, it's not going to transfer. It's really hard to. It really makes a nice tone, though. It's a really good sounding piece of wood. And you can see now how I've got the sides matched up to that top there, and so it's working out pretty well. This one thing, I've told you this wood here is about the hardest to carve and hardest to sand I've ever gotten into. It's one of the easiest to bend I've ever gotten into. So at least there was that. It was not very difficult to bend at all. It was easy to bend, which surprised the heck out of me. And then, of course, I've got the back nearly finished. Well, the back is basically finished now. I just got to get it on there, but I can't put it on there till I get the neck on the body. But you can see the carving there. Now, that carving I did with, I did that under the microscope. So that is super detailed carving. And that took pretty much a whole day to carve that rose in there. And I always find it funny. People say, well, what would you charge to build a plain one? Well, this is a plain one. This is what I build. There's nothing below this. I don't build a model below this. This is my plain one. Anyway, although this one actually, this specific one is going to be, a lot more complicated because I plan to do a lot of fancy inlay and decorative work on the top and stuff yet. So this one's going to be above and beyond my norm, my plain one, I guess you'd say. But anyway, that's the status of all that. Wow, we got a super chat from Michael 2X. Thank you so very, very much, Michael. I really appreciate that. I saw a couple of comments, and I think questions scroll up the screen. If it'll let me scroll, it's not letting me scroll this time. So let's get into the questions and answers, and as if I can answer anything. Michael C. says, no question, Jerry. I just wanted to say I just watched the condo build, and it really highlights what a talented, self-sufficient guy you are. Awesome job. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like doing stuff like that. I really do. Those are, some of you might think, why would you want to do that? Well, those are the kinds of things I like to do. To me, that's like almost like a hobby or just for fun, just something to do that I enjoy. Peter asks, shall I use Padauk for the guitar neck? Peter, I did that on my actually on the first several guitars I built with Padauk. I did use Padauk for their neck, and it works great. The negative of using Padauk or any hardwood like that for the neck is the weight factor. It does, tend to be, neck heavy, but on the positive side of that, typically a heavy neck gives you a much better sustain of your instrument. It's hard to explain why that is, other than to use a bell as an example, those kind of bells that you ring. If your handle's solid on your bell and you're playing those bells that they play in choruses and things, if the handle's solid, that bell will ring really well. But if that handle's loose, you're going to get a weird sound, and it's not going to vibrate very well in the bell. So that big, heavy, solid handle really helps your instrument ring, and it does really work well. So that part of it, Peter, you will like. The weight you might not like, but yeah. So I don't have anything against using a heavy wood like that in a neck. It works really well. Michael made a comment when Liam was on there about beautiful, this alone made it worth checking in. So there you go, Liam. You just made Michael's day. Let's see. Any other questions? What type of hardwoods do you use for making the multi-layer mandolin necks? And how many layers do you recommend for maximum strength? Well, Anthony, it's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. The more you use, the stronger it's going to be, and the more stable it's going to be. I don't think you have to go to extremes on that. I mean, here's an extreme right here. This is an extreme for sure. See how many laminations are in that? That is one, complete laminated neck. It almost looks like the grain of the neck, but it's not. It's individual pieces of wood glued together. And so that's one extreme. Here's kind of a middle of the road extreme, and this is even high. This one here, it's a 7-piece neck. Typically, I make them in 5-piece. So normally I would have 3 laminations down the middle, thin laminations. Now, that's what I normally do, and that's plenty strong. It really is. It's very strong. But the 5 laminations, like this one, or 7-piece neck, is very good. I mean, this is not going to go anywhere. I can tell you for sure. And I think it looks nice. And another thing about these laminations that you don't realize is it really helps you line up everything. When you're building your instrument, having that center line right down the center is not a bad thing, let me tell you, because you can put straight edges on things and you can really tell if you're straight down the middle or not. So it's not a bad thing from that perspective either, especially if it's your first instrument you're building. In terms of the kind of wood, almost any hardwood is going to work. you know, I stay away from the things that aren't tone producers for the most part. Like, I don't like oak. It's just heavy and it's solid and all that, but it's not very good for instruments. But like, you know, walnut is not a bad tone wood. So I use walnut and maple mainly just for their contrast. Maple's not even really the best tone wood, even though they use it in violins and mandolins and stuff. It's got a different function in those instruments that it would in a guitar. And I have heard some pretty good maple guitars, but overall it's not my favorite. But it works really nice as those laminations. Maple, one of the main reasons I like to use maple in those laminations is that it's such a tight grain. It's a hardwood and it's a tight grain, and it's pretty darn stable. And then when you put all those different layers where all the grain is not lined up together, by putting those layers like this, see, you know, because they're, you know, the different pieces of wood grew differently, and so all the grain is lined up more like this. It's very stable that way. It doesn't want to bend one way or the other because they're all fighting against each other. That's the reason you do the lamination. Well, Anthony, you asked me how, you know, what hardwoods I use and how many laminations, and I told you how to build a clock. So anyway, I gave you more information than you needed, but I hope that answers the question you were going after there. Tom Culhane says, great job, Liam. Guitarzana says, nice job, Liam. Yeah, Liam, you did a good job. Everybody really enjoyed that, I'm sure. Let's see if we find any more questions here. Peter's question again said something, no, the complete neck is Padauk for a classical guitar. What's Jerry's opinion? And, you know, I don't know if somebody else was talking to him about that or what, but yeah, I have no problem with that. Let's see here. I'm really having trouble with the scroll on this. It's locked up for some reason this morning. I don't know why. Maybe I can scroll it this way. It's not working with my wheel. Maybe my mouse is going out. Maybe that's the problem. I've lost my place, so bear with me a second. Gordon Bartlett says, I was surprised by the topography in your tower video. What is your total acreage and what percentage is upland versus bottomland? Well, the field is, I'm going to say, roughly 60 to 80 acres. The people we bought it from said it was 80 acres, but I'd guess it more like 60. And that's the bottomland. The rest of it is all hills, and we have 280 acres. So, yeah, most of it, 2/3 of it or better, is definitely hills. And it ranges from, I think right about 700 feet above sea level in the low point to more than 900 feet above sea level in the high point up there where the tower is. Yeah, Peter says 10 or even 21% humidity can cause concern when it comes to instruments. Yes, it can, Peter. I totally understand that. But what you don't understand is that your wood, now I know moisture content is a different thing than humidity, and that's what you need to understand. And your wood is dried down to around 6% before it's built. So it's really not as big a concern as you might think it is. For my money, Peter, I would rather have it dry than wet. I would not put a humidifier in my instrument. You can do what you want, but that's just me talking, so you just do what you want. Caleb Mills Guitars, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
I think I know that guy. Let me think about that a second. Where did you get the outermost shield on the heating tool cord? Are you talking about the, I think you're talking about the now I can't think of the term. It's conduit. It's a flexible conduit on the on my heater. You can get that. You can order it either way from McMaster Car. You can order it with just a plain wire coming out, or you can order it with a flexible conduit coming out of that heater core, and you can get that from McMaster Car. I think there's, in one of those videos or someplace, there is a parts list or something. It may be on my website that there's a parts list, but you can find the parts list somewhere, either on my website or in one of those videos about building the bridge heater and about building the side bender. Gary Boer, yeah. Have you done a video on how to properly pack an instrument? No, I haven't, Gary. Gary, by the way, provided me with this wonderful CD that I mentioned last week, and I was wanting to get use some snippets of that, and that just didn't work out. I'm telling you, my computer decided it didn't want any part of anything last week, and it's been too busy to do any more with it. So unfortunately, I never did get those snippets played. But if you are looking for a good CD, I would check this out. Anyway, in terms of packing the instrument and shipping an instrument, and just so everyone understands, I'm not accepting shipped-in instruments anymore, and therefore I'm not really shipping out very many instruments either. Only if the customer does walk it through the door here and wants me to ship it back, I will ship it back. But yeah, packing an instrument in a box, it's best to go to a music store if you can and get an actual box that's made for instruments. You'll have less trouble if you do it that way. But you can't pack them too well, I'll just tell you that. No matter how you pack them, the gorillas at the moving companies, at the delivery companies, those gorillas like to stomp on them, and they can damage them. I haven't had very many damage, to be truthful. In the 40 years, I've only had maybe 4 or 5, something like that. So, but anyway, Gary, I never have done a video on that, I don't think. Although, now that I say that, seems like Melissa or Emery or somebody featured a little bit of that in one video. I don't remember now. Blaine Cox, is Padauk wood good for musical instruments? Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the Osage orange, and Blaine, I use it a lot in my inlay work on my instruments, mostly because here I can't find Osage orange big enough to use it to build the back and the sides of an instrument. It's all short, twisted wood here in Missouri. When I was in Kansas, we were in these real big trees. It was really dark out. I couldn't see very well, of course, as you know, I'm night blind. But we were in these really big trees, and I asked the people, I said, what kind of trees are these? I said, I don't think I've ever seen anything like them. And he says, those are, Osage orange. And they were huge. They were like, this big around and 40 feet tall, I don't know. That's what they said. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they said. So, but around here, they're like, well, you might find one this big, but it's twisted and gnarly, and they're not very straight and all that. So, it would make good wood for an instrument if you could find it in a big enough area. But I would only use it on the back sides, perhaps the neck, and definitely the inlay works real nice because it's real pretty color. Next question here from Michael 2X. Hey Rosemeister, will the rental retreat still be available? I would love to visit after the thaw out. My arthritis doesn't like the frosty weather. Well, mine doesn't like it either. But I'm stuck here. Yeah, the rental retreat is available for the future. It's not too hard to rent it. You can just go on my website and fill out some forms there and kind of tell us when you're looking to come here, and then we'll get back to you and let you know if it's available at that time. And yeah, but I'm not foreshadowing anything at this point. I mean, it is available now and for the foreseeable future, but at some point, the way these hands are getting, and they're not getting any better, it's going to slow down and shut down eventually, but it may be a while yet. I was just showing Bill here this morning, these knots are getting bigger all the time. This white looking knot here that you can see here, and on this side too, I can barely bend that thumb at all now. And then all of the fingers have something, it's just not getting any better at all. So the rental retreat is available. Just go on my website and fill out the forms if you're interested in coming here. Herschel Rector says, do you have an opinion on whether 12th fret guitars typically have less sustain than 14th fretters? Would your friend Jesse Verge have contact info for fellow Mississippian to share? Well, I'm not going to comment on the 12th versus the 14th fret. To be truthful, I don't think I have a big opinion on that. And I had Jesse Verge's information right here on my desk, and then I cleaned off this desk, and now I don't think I have it here on my desk, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would tell you. I'm pretty sure you can find him on YouTube also. I think his last name is Burge, and I don't think there's an S on the end, but I might be wrong on that. Jesse Verge Guitars. If he's on here watching this morning, and he often watches, put your comment out there, Jesse, and let him know how to get a hold of you. He just, now that I think about it, he sent me an email with a new guitar he's building, and it was really pretty. Had a lot of inlay and stuff on it. I suspect that he bought the inlay pre-made, but I'm not sure about that. But it was really pretty. Let's see here. So about the 14th and the 12th fret, I'm not really going to make a comment one way or the other on that, because honestly, I don't know that I'm the expert on whether one has a better sound than the other. I just work on them and I just fix them. Have I ever built a flat top mandolin? Can you recommend a plan for a first time build? That was Benjamin AD. No, I have never built a flat top mandolin. Doggone it, I wish I could think of the name of the company that was building them here in Missouri. There was a company building flat top mandolins in Missouri. I want to say something crazy like Mid-Missouri Mandolins or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could Google it and see if you could find that company. I don't know if they're still in existence. I kind of think they went out of business. But for a while there, I was seeing their mandolins left and right, and they were all flat top. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about the plans either. You could probably find something at StuMac. That'd be my best guess. And certainly you ought to be able to Google it and find it. Sorry. The Happy Knot. Who had the best violin design in your opinion, Stradivarius or Guarnerius? Well, I don't know. Honestly, again, I'm not so sure I know that either. I know Stradivarius hard to beat. It's kind of like the Lloyd Loar mandolin, he set a pretty dang high standard, and it's pretty hard to beat. So I guess I'd have to lean towards the Strad, but I mean, they're all really good in their own right, So I can't honestly say I would be able to tell you what I really think about those two, because I haven't had enough of them in my hands to compare, I mean, in terms of especially the real thing. I've never had any of the real ones in my hand to compare. only copies, and that's what 99% of all of them are. People bring them to me all the time, and I just chuckle because they really think they have a real Stradivari. No, sorry, you don't. Not likely, anyway. You could win the lottery about a dozen times before you would find a real Stradivari violin, especially in a flea market or something. Let's see here. I'm not doing real well on my answers this morning, sorry, but you're going to have to ask simpler questions. John C. says, would you ever consider making a violin bridge out of antler or bone? I've topped off a upright bass violin with a bone topping or antler topping, but I've never made the whole bridge out of it. For one thing, it would be really hard to find a piece of antler big enough to make a violin bridge. You might be able to get it out of a moose antler or something that has the big flat area. But what you don't understand about antler, or a lot of people don't understand about antler, is that the bigger they are, the more porous they are. And like an elk antler, for instance, it's hard to find a piece big enough to make a mandolin saddle out of. Even though the antler's gigantic, the wall is very thin, that's really hard, and then the rest of it on the inside is very porous. So that's kind of the way the moose antler would be too, although I haven't had as much moose antler experience as I have with elk and deer. But the deer, the elk antler makes a really good guitar saddle because it's thin, and the elk antler is so big you can get a lot of guitar saddles out of it for sure. But honestly, on the violin thing, and then finally, it would possibly be too harsh anyway for a violin. Violin's a little different technology than mandolin. You know, the violin is that long pull to vibrate the whole instrument, where the mandolin is a chop type thing and it bounces the sound out. It's a completely different thing. So I don't think it would be that good, even if you could build one for a violin. I think it would be harsh. That's just an opinion. I don't know. Oh man, it just scrolled big time. Lost everybody again. Let me see if I can find you guys. Well, I did. I found it. Okay, BJM276 asks, where do I recommend connecting your guitar strap? Well, it's, you know, for me, it's fairly straightforward. I never connect them up here, just never. Mainly because you're putting all that weight on here, and like say you rest your arm on this, well now you're putting pressure here, back here, and the pivot point is right here. So you know what they say about a lever, if you've got a big enough lever, you can move the whole world. And basically you're turning your guitar neck into a lever when you strap it here. So no, don't strap it up here. I mean, that's just my opinion, and I'm going to stick with that one. Put your strap here. Now, a lot of people put their strap straight on the heel like this. Not a good idea. Put your button here at an angle, coming in. This is on the bottom side. Now, I'm right-handed, of course. So put your strap button here. That way, it's down on the bottom side of your neck. That way you hang your strap on it, and it just hangs naturally. And of course, you have your button back here. And your guitar will just hang naturally on that. There's no stress anywhere, and it will not fall off that way. I mean, because, if you put it right here, I guarantee you your guitar is going to want to spin like this, or the strap will actually come off, the button sticking straight out. So put your button at a slight angle down, coming in like this. You will be way better off. You will really enjoy your strap if you put it on like that. Everything else you can do, and especially, do not put it back here. Lots of people put it here. Do not put it there. Because your guitar will fall on the floor if you put it there. Bad, 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 bad. Do not put it there. Ask me how I know. Okay, I hope that helps you with the strap thing. Chad says, my wife and I would like to visit. When would be a good time to come help you cut some wood? Well, Chad, pretty much every day. I cut 2 trailer loads Tuesday, I think. Yeah, it was Tuesday. I cut 2 trailer loads of wood on Tuesday, I think. And anyway, yeah, I'll be cutting another 2 or 3 trailer loads Saturday. So I appreciate the offer there, Chad, but you probably wouldn't enjoy that much here, because when I cut wood, it's intense. I mean, I really cut a lot of wood, and I just do it in a big hurry. Yeah, but you're welcome to come and help. But I warn you ahead of time, you probably wouldn't enjoy it much. It's also, you know, sometimes it's really tough because we're on a steep hillside or something like that. Most of the time, though, I take my Bobcat with my grapple bucket, drag the wood up on the flat area and cut it up that way. So it's not too bad that way. But yeah, if anytime you want to come, I don't cut wood in the warm weather. I only cut wood in the cold weather. So you'd have to come during the cold weather. I don't know how to pronounce it. HOXOH123. There are some who claim the back of the guitar doesn't influence the sound, and they made a back out of paper mache. What do you think of that? Well, you know, I sort of agree and sort of disagree. I mean, virtually everything, in one manner of thinking or one manner of speaking, everything affects the sound. I mean, in one way of thinking. Then on the other hand, there are things that you can do and it doesn't really affect it all that much. Now, a hard back and sides, a sturdy neck, all of those things have an impact. And you can believe what you want, and paper mache could sound fine. It could. I mean, you know, that guy that made it out of ramen noodles that put it out on YouTube, it could sound fine. You know, I mean, they make some plastic guitars that sound fine. Well, I mean, even your more expensive plastic guitars, can't think, what is the name? Ovations. Yeah, Ovations. They sound fine. So yeah, you can make them out of almost anything and they'll sound okay. But it does affect the sound. Not necessarily saying positive, negative, it changes the sound. If you can't hear the difference between a paper mache guitar and a mahogany and a rosewood and a different, there's something wrong with your hearing, because they will all have a little bit different sound. Not necessarily saying one will sound that much better than the other. I'm just saying, I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. It sounds like I am. But every single thing you do has some effect on the sound, and it will sound different. Paper mache could sound great. You know, maybe they're onto something, and maybe that's the way all guitars should be made. After all, paper mache is wood. Think about that. Ooh, that got deep, didn't it? Anyway. Do I need a radius on the top of a guitar, or can it be flat? I build mine flat. Flat top guitars are flat. I know a lot of people just argue and say they're radius. They're not radius, folks. They're flat as a pancake. You know. Now, I'm not saying they're all flat. There are some that are built with a slight radius. But your Martin guitar, flat top guitar, is a flat top guitar. You might as well just get over it. That's the way they are. Okay, so there you go. I hope that answers your question, Tommy. I wasn't preaching at you, by the way, Tommy. I'm just talking in general of the comments that I get a lot of times. You have to understand, I got a lot of baggage. People make comments all the time, and sometimes they get a little irritating. Hey, by the way, the comment on my recent video, the one that I released last night about the hunting blind, I'm unsubscribing from you. I can't believe, animals have a right to live on this earth just like you do. And after all these years of, being a follower, I'm unsubscribing. I thought, well, you couldn't have watched too many of my videos, or you would have known this a heck of a lot longer. You must be brand new to watching my videos for all these years, because anybody that's watched my videos for more than a year would surely know that I'm a hunter, because I'm always putting out something about that, or talking about it, or something. So the way I answered that one was, well, you're welcome to believe what you want to believe. If you had taste buds like mine and you don't eat any vegetables, you don't have too many other options. So I eat meat. Sorry. If it offends you, too bad, so sad. But I have been tested on my taste buds, and I stand behind what I can taste. And if you can taste chlorophyll, you would never put a plant in your mouth. Because this is horrible. It's just horrible. End of discussion. But it's their loss. It's not my loss. If they don't want to see how to work on instruments because I hunt, too bad, so sad. See ya. Don't let the door hit you in the you-know-where. Okay, let's see. That was a slight rant, by the way, in case you didn't recognize it. Anthony Holloway, sorry to keep after you. One more question. What is your opinion on Goto tuner quality for a first mandolin build? They're not bad. I've used Goto tuners before. They're okay. There's, I don't know. This could sound like I'm promoting StewMac. I'm not really. They don't owe me, they don't pay me anything, and I do pay them a lot, actually. Let me find it here. I will just tell you, I realize that not everybody's going to be able to afford $600 plus for a set of tuning keys. That's ridiculous. I realize that. But I'm spoiled on these Waverly tuning keys. They are quality from where quality comes from. You can't feel any play in these at all. When you move it, this moves. There's no back and forth backlash and all that. Every other set of tuners I've used has got backlash, and you can feel this wobble and all that. These have none of that. None of that. It's night and day difference. So, if you can afford Waverly, I don't know anything better. And that's just the bottom line truth of it. They don't pay me nothing to say that. I'd say it because it's true. So Waverly, in my opinion, made by StewMac, is as good as it gets. And I think they're actually made by StewMac. They may contract it out, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they make them. Anyway, because I saw a video on that on YouTube about somebody touring the factory and showing where they made the tuning keys and all that stuff. And I thought, you make those in-house? I was blown away. I had no clue that they made them. But I'm pretty sure they make them there. I may have misunderstood some of that. But anyway, the point is, those Waverlys are as good as it gets. The Goto are very good. I've used them. Schaller's very good. There's a bunch of them out there that are really good. Grover's pretty darn good. Grover's really good tuning keys. All of them are good. All of them will work perfectly. You won't have any problems with them untuning or anything like that. I'm just telling you, well, when you're building the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human, you got to use Waverlys, period. I hope that makes sense to you. But yeah, they're all real good. So you won't have any problem with your Goto. Let's see. Wow, it scrolled again. Man. Let me find it. Oh, man. I don't know where it went that time. Have I tried hunting with a bow and arrow?
I can answer
That one. My super fan here can answer that one. Yeah, I've killed a lot of deer with a bow and arrow. Yeah, more than your average hunter by far. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you how many. And rabbits, and I don't, by the way, on rabbits and things like that, when I hunt them with a bow, believe it or not, I don't ever, not ever, shoot a rabbit sitting. It's got to be running if I'm going to shoot it. And it's not that I hit every one. I'm not saying I do, but that gives them a fair chance, and that's fair chase. And they have to be running, and I have shot my fair share of rabbits running also with a bow and arrow. Yeah, I've done that, been there, done that a bunch. I've won a lot of hunting tournaments. I'm going to digress and tell you this story. It's meaningful to me just because of who it was with. Gary McGee was really about my best friend working at Southwestern Bell years ago. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer, Hodgkin's something, lymphoma, I think it was. Anyway, this was a long time ago, back when I was in my 30s. And he had heard stories. By then, I wasn't in the competitions anymore on archery. I had been out of it for over 10 years of the actual competitions. But he had heard me talk about that, and he had heard from others, people that knew how I shot and everything. And he says, before I die, and that's exactly how he put it to me. He says, I want to go to a tournament with you, and I want to see you shoot. Well, he had already picked out a tournament, and he said, there's one coming up at Jefferson City in, I don't know, a week or two. And I said Jefferson City. I didn't mean Jefferson City. I meant Jefferson Barracks Memorial Park. They have a bow hunter league down there, and they've got some extra forest ground, and they set up these tournaments where they walk through the woods, and some of the targets are actually moving on pulleys and all kinds of things. It's really a cool setting, and you shoot it like, I'm going to say roughly 100 targets. I mean, there's a bunch of targets. Well, anyway, you're walking down these paths and you shoot at different distances, and you never know the yardage. So every single shot is a guess on how far away it is, how fast it's moving, all that stuff. Well, when we pulled up to this tournament, there was over 300 archers there. Now, keep in mind, I hadn't been at a tournament in more than 10 years. I went, wow, you picked a good one. Because back when I was in the tournaments, there was maybe 100 people at a tournament, Well, there was at least 300 at this one. So we pulled up and we, registered and started on the shoot. And I was doing way better than I expected I would. I was hitting it pretty much everything. Just, pretty much killing every target I came to. Well, we came to this really long line. I mean, there was like 30 shooters in front of us, and we were standing in line waiting to shoot this next target. And we couldn't even tell what the problem was. Why is there such a holdup here? Well, when we get up there, once you've got about 10 people in front of you, you can kind of see the target instead of 30 people in front of you. This target is forever down through the woods. I mean, it's like forever down through the woods. You can't imagine how far away this thing looked in the woods. And it's a deer, and it's a 3D, styrofoam deer, and I'm guessing, I have to guess how far it is to shoot at this, and I'm guessing it's 80 yards. I'm just picking that number, and I'm sticking to it. I'm just going to shoot it for 80 yards. And that's fine and dandy, except guess what I had on my bow? I had a 20-yard, a 30-yard, a 40-yard, and a 50-yard pin. That's it. I had 4 pins, 20, 30, 40, 50. So how am I going to shoot 80 yards and hit hit this deer in the heart so that I can get my full score. I don't know. Nobody's hitting this target, by the way. I mean, like, nobody. Like, one guy hit it in the foot, I think we saw, and, you know, maybe one other guy hit it in the rear end or something like that. 0 people are hitting this target in front of us. So, you know, my buddy there, Gary, he's waiting to see what I can do with this target. Well, I've made up in my mind that it's 80 yards. And so I just decided that's how far it is, and that's what I'm going to shoot it for. So I pull back, and so what I did was I put I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think I put my 50-yard pin on the heart, and I looked and I saw where my 20-yard pin was. So there's 30 yards difference there. So what I did was I raised my 50-yard pin up to I had a little tiny leaf that I had my 20-yard pin on. So I raised my 50-yard pin up to that little tiny leaf. I shot that arrow, boom, hit it right square in the heart. Everybody cheered. I mean, it was just amazing. And Gary was just beside himself. He couldn't believe I hit this thing and not only hit it, but I killed it right in the heart. Okay, so we go on and we finish the rest of it. We shoot all the moving targets and everything. Well, when the final score was given out of 300 shooters now, keep in mind, I had 3rd place. Well, before I was going up to collect my trophy that they were giving out, this guy walks up to me and Gary and he says, "You know you got ripped off, don't you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You know the guys that got 1st and 2nd?" And I said, "What?" "No, I don't know them." I said, "I haven't been in this for over 10 years now." He goes, "Those are the guys that run this range and they set up the targets?" Well, right there, they know all the yardages. They know all of them. Yeah, the rest of us, all 300 other people are shooting blind, not knowing the yardages. And if you know anything about archery, you got to know the yardage to hit it. Well, anyway, bottom line is I got 3rd. So technically, if you want to look at it from the cheating standpoint, I got 1st. So that was the last tournament I ever shot in, and Gary died just a month later. I mean, just almost no time later. So that's my story about hunting, and so yes, I know how to shoot a bow. Trust me, you wouldn't want to be on the wrong end of that arrow, trust me, if I'm shooting at you. But it's been a long time. I don't have the stamina to shoot like that anymore. And with the arthritis and stuff in my shoulders and my back and my neck, I can shoot 1 or 2 shots and shoot them that accurate, but that's about all I can manage now. It's 1 or 2 shots. So anyway, that's my archery story. Sorry to digress that much. I hope you enjoyed that. But it's a true story. Let me see if I can find any more. We're out of time. Let me just get one more question here. Let's see if we can find a good one. I'm not going to answer this one, but the Happy Knot says, someone described my fiddle as honky sounding. What does that mean in as far as tone? Whenever I play fiddle, that's a nice description. I wish somebody would say I sounded honky, because that's not the usual terms they're using for me when I'm playing fiddle. Anyway, can you recommend an instrument case maker? Wow, Blaine, man, did you walk into my shop here or what just now? That's a good one. I meant to tell you that on this here. You know, I told you I spent $600, or actually it's more than that, for those tuning keys for the Waverleys. Well, guess what I just spent on a case for this world's finest mandolin ever built by a human? Can you guess? It was about $1,020 for the case for this mandolin. Where did I buy it? I bought it from Calton Cases in Texas. I think they're in Austin, Texas. Calton, C-A-L-T-O-N, I think is the pronunciation. You know, I don't know. Are they the very best case in the world? I don't know, but they're $1,000. They ought to be. So, yeah, Blaine, I can recommend Calton. No, Calton. Calton is super good. I mean, they're really, really fine cases, and their cheapest case you're still going to get out of there for around $900. But TKL is a good case company. That's about the only company I can think of. It's TKL. I'm sure there are plenty others out there, Blaine. Honestly, I don't know too many. I was a TKL dealer for a while. That's why I know that. Sorry, I wish I could tell you more. The satin finish on my Martin is rubbing off. Please suggest a repair. I love being with you. Great personality. Well, thank you, Jarvis. Yeah, the finish rubbing off. Yeah, I don't know. It won't hurt anything if you do this, and you might be happy with the result. And that is, I would rub it down with boiled linseed oil. Just rub that on there and wipe it completely back off. Rub it on, give it 2 minutes, take your dry cloth and wipe it back off. You might be surprised that it looks fine. You might do that 2 or 3 times over the next couple of weeks, and it may just be fine. That may be all you need to do. When you say satin finish, you get into the issue there of, will this change the look of it? And it might. So you might want to test it first, even because of the satin finish. If it was a gloss finish, I wouldn't have any hesitancy telling you to do what I just told you. But on the fact that it's satin, you might want to test it a little bit first. Well, it's been fun. Whoops, something popped up on my screen here. I can't see you. It's been fun being with you this morning. We got about 190 viewers this morning, so we didn't make our 200 as we've been doing. But I appreciate each and every one of you being here, and I hope you're not freezing where you are, because it is frosty cold here. So we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for showing up.